The Puma Deviate Nitro 3. 300 plus miles. It's time to ask the question, does the shoe still have some life in it, or is it time to put it on the shelf? Let's get into it. So before we get into the video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're already subscribed to watching the content. Thanks so much, love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Strava for all sorts of other updates and things like that. So without further ado, let's begin. Specs of the shoe somewhere up here. And first things first, let's go into the outsoles of the shoe, because at 300 plus miles, I would love to know what's sort of going on in the area that is protecting your feet, or is considered the front line of said wear, of course. So there we go. Quick checks on both sides. Let's start with our left foot. At this time, as you can see, our biggest damage is still on this anterior side, where we are starting to eat up the Puma grip rubber on the foam, and it's beginning to expose the foam on the outside of this shoe. Is that a major problem? Not yet. It is getting to that point though, where you should be a little bit more concerned, because once we start losing the grip in this area, and we start going on conditions that might be a little bit rainier, foggy, maybe once we get into like snowy conditions here in Chicago, things are going to get kind of tricky here, because the grip is going to need to work, and based on how much polishing and how smooth the rubber is getting in certain sections, we're going to have some issues in that category. So if we have to push this into being a treadmill specific shoe, that might be the case, but that's just something to consider as we move forward into the autumn season. Looks like it's the same deal on the right foot. Again, very polished out across the forefoot area of the shoe and the anterior side. And the question you might be asking if you're a new viewer here and aren't aware of my running form, like why the central piece of the shoe isn't so burned in this case. It's more or less affiliated, it's mostly affiliated with the offset of the shoe, okay? At 10 millimeters as a stack height, that means you have the shoe leaning anterior side normally, and then you also have this high heel effect at the same time. This is to counterbalance any sort of overpronation you may have, and that's something to do with the shoe's insole and the design of the shoe in addition to its stack height, okay? So with all those things considered, if my form is a little bit more, I guess, quote-unquote normal, or nothing too crazy or special about it, what's happening here is the strike zone is no longer in the midfoot area, but gets pushed outside, because as I'm running with the shoe, it's naturally going on the outside. That's what's happening with 10 millimeter offset shoes. Yes, I do have a running form video in the works right now that I've been taking some data from my recent Chicago Marathon, and I've been putting that all together slowly but surely. It's something I'm putting a little more thought into. So anyways, back to what's going on here. That explains the wear on the outside here, and it also causes some of the rubber on this end to sort of protrude on the side of the shoe. It doesn't like look like much here, but maybe if we look at it this way, you might be able to kind of see it. It's kind of melting off to, where is it? I just saw it, darn it. It's like right here specifically, if you can kind of see it. That's kind of getting pushed onto the outside of the shoe, so that's just something to watch. On the upper, there isn't much wear or tear that I see that's specific. I think the decal, again, they're kind of noisy, like this piece, for example, and like the Puma insignia. It's okay. They're not really impacting the ride of the shoe at this time, so nothing too concerning about it. The main damage on the outsole to consider, really, is that the heel areas of the shoe are beginning to take a beating. So the sponges are sort of just reaching their end point with how many times the foot goes in, foot comes out, tightening, running, you know, all of those features are starting to just kind of eat at it, and it is doing a little bit of heel scratching for me, but not significantly. If you have like good socks and they're not ankle socks, you'll be okay. This is just a blip or a limitation that's just sort of occurring at this time with the shoe. But other than that, the question might be, at 300 plus miles, how is the ride? And to the ride factor, I would say that the carbon plate is still in good shape. The foam is starting to take a bit of a beating, but the turnover and like the energy return you would want from the shoe is definitely still there. However, going back to the foam, it's starting to fatigue a little bit. It's experiencing its cracks on the inside of the foam area of the shoe when you sort of like pronate into it, and as a result, I think specifically with this shoe and maybe historical trainers I've had in the past, there's a little bit more, I guess, post-run soreness in joints, right? So I feel a little bit on the outside of my knee, a little bit in the ankles as a result, and that's just specific to the impact on the roads being a little bit more intense than it used to, just because the foam isn't operating at 100% or 90% like its job is out of the box. Maybe it's now operating at like 60 to 50%, but it's still okay enough, right? There was like certain shoes like the Hoka, for example, that like once I cut in past, I think it was the EVA foam, and you got into I forget what like sort of compounds were on the Mach. I think it was like the Pro Fly and the Pro Fly Plus. Once you started cutting into those, there was like little to no support for your foot whenever you were hitting the ground. And at this point, even if we break into the Nitro stack here, we might still be okay for a little bit, but I don't want to push my luck with it, right? So if the joint and ankle pain starts growing as I run in this shoe, it may be just time to retire it simply from the structural failure of the foam, which is expected at this point in time, if not at least up to 400, and in maybe some cases with people who have the correct form for this shoe, maybe you can get to 500, 600, 700 miles, but for me, I'm a little bit more aggressive. I'm a little bit more of a slapstick kind of a runner. I'll hit the ground really hard with my feet, especially in a 10mm offset that isn't like perfect for my running form, but is sometimes fun, something I'm kind of used to. I might wear these out a little bit more than I would like to, right? So at this time, I would say the shoe is still okay. There's definitely cracks in the armor of what made this shoe special, like the Deviate Nitro 2 as well, but it's not bad enough for me to put this on the shelf. I can still use this shoe on a regular basis, run slow in it, not put it through any sort of gauntlet style workouts like a tempo, threshold, any sort of session like that. Just something casual, just something easy, nothing too hard. And I think we'll have a pretty good time getting into the 350, 400 plus mile range for shoes, which would ultimately put it into a rare category on this channel alongside the Pegasus 37, the Boston 12 from Adidas. So hopefully the Deviate Nitro 3 can get into that phase. I think the Deviate Nitro 2 was in that Hall of Fame if I recall correctly. We would have to double check that. But anyways, that's I think where we're going to leave this here. Nothing too crazy, just these are the points of the shoe at 300+ miles that have been considerable in terms of wear for me to address and just kind of leave at that. I guess you guys can also answer for me in the comment section. Like, somebody commented in a different video that the Deviate Nitro 3 is like not available online or something for sale. I don't know. I didn't go looking for it necessarily. Perhaps that's a sanity check for you guys. Can you like find the Deviate Nitro 3 on Puma's website? What's going on with this, right? Are they trying to like restructure it and rebrand it as something? Is it off the shelves for good? Is there a Nitro 4 coming out? What's the deal here? I haven't been following this particular drama, so yeah, just let me know what's going on with that. But again, if you agree or disagree with the assessment, let me know in the comments below, and I think we'll just leave it at that. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.